Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live 49ers mailbag. Obviously, yours truly, your host, Rob Schuh. I was out there in Denver for what turned out to be an interesting game, to say the least. A hell of a one to sit through, hell of a game to have to suffer through, and an interesting one to have to break down. I'll be quite honest, I needed a mental health day after that game. I thought about going live. You obviously saw the live stream from the parking lot prior to the game. It was fantastic to have Steph Sanchez on the program, Javier Vega, Jordan Elliott. Great to have everybody there. It was a fantastic pregame, and the game was mixed. I mean, obviously the defense was just elite. It's such a shame to waste a performance by the defense as we did. But with what the offense put on the field and the negativity that loss spiraled 49er faithful into, I honestly didn't have it within me to get back on the air after the game. I needed a moment away, and I went to a steakhouse that was by my hotel, not a far walk from the stadium. And sadly, as I'm eating away my sorrows, I'm connecting with the bartender there, who's very kind. She's taking good care of me, got me a free dessert at the end. I got a sweet tooth. And she got me a free dessert at the end by telling everyone it was my birthday, put a little candle in there and everything. But towards the end, she's like, I'm going to be here till 2 a.m. Turns out Russell Wilson and Sierra and a bunch of the Denver Broncos players are coming in to celebrate. So it was just pain. There I was trying to forget about the game, and Russell Wilson and his lovely wife and other teammates are there in the room next door celebrating their victory. You know, as I walk out to go to my hotel, there's his Rolls Royce in the front, still with the Washington plates on it. Wolf 03 was the license plate there, just in case you're in the Denver area and you needed to know what Russ's license plate was. Just a tough game. And honestly, had a travel day yesterday, but needed another mental health day yesterday to get over this. It is tough. I'm not feeling great. Not feeling like I want to go through the comments because I'm worried that it's going to be some mixture of the 7 levels of hell, quite honestly. So what I'm asking of you today is, hey, all the criticism is warranted, not of the team in its entirety, because one half of the team is elite. I mean, tops in the league. The defense is phenomenal. So I don't want to hear anything disparaging the Niners as a whole. The offense, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan, that criticism is warranted this week. I think it absolutely falls primarily on those two. Yeah, other players within the offense. Losing Trent Williams is a big deal. I'm not going to underplay that, but it's also not an excuse. All the offense needed to do in this one was be acceptable, and they couldn't do that. So this is the mailbag. I had to get that off of my chest, but you know how the mailbag works. I'm going to go through some previously submitted questions that came in either via the email address, 49ersmailbag@gmail.com, or an answer to my tweet this morning asking for your submissions at the left shoe on Twitter. I'll be honest, if it weren't for the mailbag, I would consider getting off of 49ers Twitter altogether because it is a dark and hellish place. I appreciate those of you that are here in the chat and have been for some time. I'm sorry I haven't gotten to you yet, but Swan Song, J-Mac, Gold Blooded, Randall, Riley, Ellis 10, Jason Walsh. Appreciate all of you. Pete Gorman, E. Kim. There's a lot of folks in the chat. J Cruz 24. If you're talking to me today, very important that you put the @Rob in there because I know there'll be a lot of back and forth, people speaking to one another in the chat. That's already what has happened with folks, having differing opinions, wanting to express themselves, having various conversations in the chat. Always going to try and bring in those comments that are relevant. If you can help me out by putting in the @Rob, that would be fantastic. Much like JMac49 does here, Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, I can't wait to hear your take on the game. Again, phenomenal defensive performance. And that's what's so painful is allowing a defensive stand like this one to go to waste. All the offense had to do was make a couple of small plays here and there, and they couldn't. Jimmy left some wide open looks on the field, made some boneheaded throws. Kyle's play calling didn't seem to be in rhythm, didn't feel all that creative, generated some open plays that we couldn't take advantage of, but when it came down to it, could not make use of the quarterback that he should know so well to this point. There was obvious frustration between quarterback and play caller. Some of those things are making the rounds on the internet today as well. Raphael5629ers coming in to say, what's up, Rob, sneakerheads, and everyone. Appreciate you, Raphael562. Want to get to those again that talk to me. Treasure Kisses coming in to say hello. Hello, all. Definitely. All right, here we go. Ekim talking to me. Rob, A+ for D'Amico Ryans in the defense, F- for this offense. And Kyle, I can't disagree with those grades today. Absolutely A+ for D'Amico Ryans. Listen, I'm not on board with the blame Kyle, now we fire Kyle. I'm not on board with that second step to it yet, but I will say this. If I start to get to that point, the first name on my list is going to be D'Amico Ryans. That's who I would want to replace. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but if I get there, it is going to be D'Amico that I'm calling for. All right. Again, looking for those at Rob in the comments. I know everybody is just attempting to get out their feelings in the comments, and I see it. I can sense it. All right. I got to address this one. Gold-blooded. First of all, how dare you? How dare you suggest such a thing? Because I'm a little bit superstitious, and it offends me that you would put this out there. Gold-blooded asks, Rob, are you becoming a road jinx? Let me point out that in the playoffs last year, yes, was I at the Rams game? Yeah, I was. But I was at the Packers game too. So that offsets one another. I have been at far more spectacular wins in my life than I have been crushing losses. I was there for the 1994 championship game. I was there for Terrell Owens, the catch too. I was there for Vernon Davis, the Vernon Post. I was there for 2019, both of those playoffs games, the Saints game in 2019. A lot of playoff victories. I've not been to a Super Bowl win. And yes, so far this season, I'm 0-2. But God, no, I'm not accepting any blame for this atrocious offense. If we're assigning blame, I want less than 1% assigned to Rob Schuh being in attendance. E. Kim says, Rob, this defense has given up less average points than the 85 Bears through 3 games in. I'm telling you, elite defense. And that's why I'm not losing hope. I am not losing hope on this season because this defense is going to keep us in every single game. I don't care how bad Jimmy is. I don't care if Kyle falls off the wagon as far as being able to call creative plays or call them in the right sequence. This defense might just keep us in every game this year. E. Kim says, am I drive from Chicago? Yes, finally. Moses Martinez says, Rob, I wish the defense would have some balls and get in people's faces, let them know what's up. If it comes to throwing hands, so be it. I threw hands with my teammates before. I don't know that it is there yet. There is a bit of a casual nature to the offense. You saw it in the way in which Debo answered questions. You saw it in the smiles on Jimmy's face, which I know aggravates people. But I don't get a sense that this team is at all fracturing yet. And that's what you would look for if the defense is coming in. Beast Mode Gaming. Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, I am still positive, man. Good. Let me get into some of the previously submitted questions. I'm going to get back into yours right here. Again, do me that favor. Hit the @Rob. I know that the chat is going to be popping off today. Do me 2 favors. Number 1, hit the like button for me if you enjoy the content. Always trying to amplify my signal. Number 2, if you're typing in a comment or a question to me, especially when the chat is busy, hit me with that @Rob on the mailbag. Let me get into the first previously submitted question. I will be right back to your chats in just a moment. This one isn't so much a question as it is a comment, and I'm here for it. Aaron says, not a question, but how about everyone stop the negativity and just support our team? Yeah, it was a bad loss, but it's only week 3. Well, week 4 now. Our division is up for grabs, and we can honestly still win it. Let's go and win. I just wanted to put this up, not because I have any problem with criticism this week. The Niners deserve it, but I love this comment. Just the idea of less negativity, because it overwhelmed me the last couple of days. I don't have a problem with critiquing play, in particular the offensive play that we saw on Sunday night. But the extremes that our fan base tends towards is rough, man, especially for somebody like me who's empathetic and feels things. I wouldn't be able to do these mailbags without Twitter. I said this earlier. Honestly, I may not be able to stay on 49ers Twitter for much longer if this season heads in the wrong direction. There's too much actual hate and just nasty stuff being said in that space. I see it spill over into the comments here as well. I think it's fair to be irritated with this team. It's fair to be upset. I just can't personally get on board with the extreme rage that I see. It's irrational. I just don't see the purpose of it. It doesn't benefit me as a person, and it certainly hurts those people I direct that rage at. Thomas L. comes in. Is Shanahan incapable of learning from his mistakes? This is the unedited version in here. In the Super Bowl, Mostert didn't touch the ball on a running play until the second quarter. In the NFC Championship game, Debo doesn't touch the ball at all with the game on the line. And Jimmy throws and Sunday Night Football, Jimmy's struggling. We got a 3rd and 3. Jimmy throws an incomplete pass instead of running the ball. I need to know there's light at the end of the tunnel. Help me out, Rob. I appreciate the question, Thomas. Had to edit it to get it on the screen there. I do think there's something to the observation that Kyle Shanahan is extremely stubborn. Can he adjust his style to others, like making shifts from Trey to Jimmy or Jimmy to Trey last year? He seems to believe that there is one correct way to run the offense. When Trey couldn't run it the way that Shanahan expected, Kyle decided he would need to lean on Trey's legs. When Jimmy's back in and seems to struggle executing the plays, Kyle doesn't adjust, just continues to allow Jimmy to flail about out there. I'd say often folks with big egos struggle to admit they're wrong. And I would bet that Shanahan does in fact believe his offense has all the answers to beat a defense. But that doesn't matter if you can't find the right person to operate that offense. At some point, you have to tailor your offense to match the skills of your players, in particular, Jimmy Garoppolo. Some of you may be saying he doesn't have all that many skills. I disagree, but I get what you're saying. I've not seen Kyle make those adjustments. If this offense does continue to struggle, that's going to be the biggest question for me in observing this observing the season is, did Kyle adjust? All right, I want to get back into your comments that are happening live here in the chat. Again, appreciate all of you that are here with me live. Jan coming in, Rob, Verrett and Jimmy Ward coming back. Defense will be number one. This defense is phenomenal. That's why I will not give up hope. J. Cruz 24. Rob, what's your take on that video of Jimmy saying the plays suck? I will say this. I read lips a little bit because I've lost some hearing as a kid. I had a 1969 GTO with cut off 3-chamber Flowmaster exhaust, and it was cut off right behind the back seat. The drone on that car was unbelievable. Had a couple of 12s in the trunk, and I was blasting Dre and Eazy-E a lot in the early 90s. So I've damaged my hearing. I end up reading a lot of lips. And when people put on masks, I was like, oh, no, I can't hear people anymore. I didn't realize how much I was reading lips. It illustrates to me that I was. When I read what Jimmy was saying there, it's out of context and it's incomplete. So do I agree that he's saying some form of play sucks? Yes, absolutely. Do I think that there's animosity between Jimmy and Kyle right now? Yes, I do. I'm not entirely sure what he says exactly, so I'm not going to try and derive what exactly he means if I can't quote him exactly. There's frustration. Things aren't working between Jimmy and Kyle, and the two of them need to figure it out. It's on both of them in my book. All right, I see a couple of super chats. You know I have to get to those. Gizmo Maltese coming in. Broncos shut down Debo runs. Yes, they did. The man only got 6 yards on 5 carries, I think. Felt like Broncos had the entire offense figured out. Need to go back to Kittle and Debo as a wide receiver. Thoughts? Yes, I do believe that you've got to start throwing the ball to Kittle and you have to start throwing the ball to Debo. Why are we forcing so many runs to Debo if they're not working? When they're working, great. But if a defense has them figured out, if they are keying on it, why are we not building off of that? That was the staple of Shanahan offenses before. When a defense adjusted to something, he had a pivot. He had a way in which to attack the defense, that the weakness that the defense had exposed in changing their game plan to take away whatever it was Shanahan was doing. I'm not getting that sense. I'm not seeing that next level of adjustments just yet. Again, not willing to write off this season. It's far too early, far too small of a sample size. I truly believe in Kyle Shanahan's ability to right this ship. I know Jimmy Garoppolo's talent level isn't great, but it's better than what we saw on Sunday. Let's be real about that. He's got another one of those games in him, and let's just hope it doesn't come in the playoffs if we end up getting there. But we knew these types of games were possible. We just need the other version of Jimmy to make more of an appearance. Again, this offense just needs to be freaking average with that defense. CT Law coming in, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, remember, they were keeping Jimmy till the last minute. So in case Seattle wanted him, he wouldn't be ready. Why 9 targets to Brandon Ayuk when you saw after the timing was off? Did you see the guy post Jimmy's comment? I have not seen Jimmy's comment, unless you're referring to the lip reading fiasco thing, in which case I have and just spoke about it a moment ago. I've not seen another comment coming from Jimmy Garoppolo. Did see the post game in him talking about being off rhythm with Debo, and then Debo being asked about that specifically, and Debo replying that, hey, Jimmy holds himself to a high standard as far as being on the same page. I will say that the offense as a whole was just frustrating to watch in this one. Absolutely aggravating. Missing open receivers, mistakes at key points in time. It just was ugly. Ugly. Gold-blooded coming in. Rob, I'm thinking I'll give Jimmy a couple of games to catch up. He didn't have an offseason of throwing or practice. With that said, he still looked horrible last game. Your thoughts on the offseason? I do think that matters. It's not an excuse that will completely validate the performance that we saw on Sunday, but most definitely getting playing time, acclimating yourself back to your teammates, there's validity to that. It doesn't alleviate the amount of anger that I feel with the way in which the offense performed. So do I expect them to get better? Yes, absolutely. That's going to be tough, minus Trent Williams. Absolutely have to acknowledge how big of a loss that is with Trent Williams out. BK from the Bay. Rob, RG3 said he would like to play for the 49ers. What's your thoughts? I mean, that goes back to people saying Kyle Shanahan and RG3 have bad blood. I just like to point that out. That maybe the fire Kyle things because he ruined RG3 maybe were a little bit exaggerated. Just a little. But that's what we do. When we get emotional, when we get upset, we do tend to exaggerate things. We do tend to blow them out of proportion. Gizmo, I'm confused by this one. Gizmo says, wow, Rob was a cool kid. I'm not sure that you have met the right guy. Rob probably was not a cool kid. Oh, you meant the GTO. No, I was an outcast at that point too. Like we were the car crew that hung out in the back corner of the parking lot. We were the kids from Dazed and Confused, right? That we acted a little shady in high school. Let me just say that. I am, says Rob. I might be alone on this, but I'm not a fan of how Kyle ran the ball with Debo on 3rd and long to run the clock out before halftime. That sequence before the half was just odd in and of itself. To take that time out and then say, we're not really going to run it and come close to having to give the ball back to Denver with time on the clock. That was very, very frustrating to me. Dustin Kohler says, write it off. You'll feel better with lower expectations. Dustin, you're breaking my heart. Bang, bang, coming in. Rob Schuh, do you think we will see Purdy earlier than expected if Jimmy continues to perform this way? Not until we're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. That could happen. Let's be real about it. That could absolutely happen. But the NFC West is wide open at this point. We beat LA next week. Boom. Look who's back in first place. So no, I do not think we'll see Purdy soon. But if we get mathematically eliminated, yeah, why pay Jimmy more of a bonus? Unless you feel like you're upping his trade value. But come on, that ship has sailed. Kevin Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, this could turn really nasty and affect the ones that are out of contract next season if this doesn't turn around. Shannon Lynch are getting close to a fan revolt. It's a shame, but not over yet. Not even close to over yet. I want to point that out. I think Kevin is right. It could get very ugly very quickly, but it's not even close to being there yet. Shreddy Murphy says, Shock the World Part 2, Monday Night Football versus LA. Everyone must run. Hey, let me just say this. Like, this season could turn the F around. Let's just right the ship. Lorenzo Gonzalez says, live, ride together. Live together, we die together. Niners fans for life. Have we ever had a time when fans were so divided on the state of the franchise? All right. I think we're saying we ride together, we die together. The LI just threw me off. Get that LI out of there. Now I understand it. We ride together, we die together. Niner fans for life. Have we ever had a time when fans were so divided on the state of the franchise? Lorenzo, I don't think we have had a time where we were as divided as we are right now. It's very frustrating to me. I see fans gloating against other fans, both fans of the 49ers, and one being like, I told you Jimmy sucked. Like, yeah, no shit, he sucked out there. Do you think I took any pleasure in that? And this idea that there's so many people pointing to Jimmy like, I told you that we should have continued to roll with Trey. Yeah, no shit. We would have continued to roll with Trey if he hadn't gotten injured. So I hate to hear it, because as someone who was in full support of turning this team over to Trey Lance, as someone who viewed it as a bit of a mess to keep Jimmy around, but then was grateful when Trey did go down, I now think it's so odd to have flipped on Jimmy so quickly when he's basically our last hope at the position. You can't honestly think, let's turn it on over to Brock Purdy and save the season. No, we know Jimmy is capable of average quarterback play. Regardless of what you think of the dude, you know he can put together some games with average quarterback play. That will be enough to win this season. So it's just strange to me the way everyone is jumping on this negativity. I get the frustration. I get that. But to then attack other fans and to attack players, it's wild. It's wild. Randy Riley, sneakerhead here on the channel with a $21 says, 21 points a game. Let's make 21 our lucky number this season. Let's beat Seattle by 21. How about that? I want a big win. Sorry, not Seattle, LA. Let's beat the Rams by 21, huh? Jaguayo 56, sneakerhead here on the channel. Kruger was completely perplexed with the Debo runs. They were all over that, and yet we continued to go back to it and did not build off of it as Kyle Shanahan usually would, wherein you say, oh, great, you're going to trail Debo every time he's in motion. You know what? I'm going to take advantage of that and lead you one way and take off the other. It didn't feel like we made them pay for being so on top of covering Debo Samuel. CT Law, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, before I say this, it's not about hate. LOL. Kyle calls the plays. I honestly think Kyle needs Jimmy to crash and burn, or he looks too bad. Conspiracy theories, but I say Jimmy is going rogue this week. At first, I was like, he's going rouge this week. He's going to put a little bit of makeup in there. No, he's going rogue. I get it, CT Law. I hear you. I don't buy into conspiracy theories myself. That's not the way in which I operate. I do think that Kyle Shanahan needs to adjust his play calling with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy should not have to go rogue. Kyle should understand after this many years with Jimmy what his strengths are and what his oh so very obvious weaknesses are, and he should not be dropping back to pass from the 1 yard line. Do I blame that safety on Jimmy Garoppolo? Yeah, he stepped on the line. But who bears the ultimate freaking blame? Kyle Shanahan for calling the play on that one. That one was so frustrating for me. 49ers coming in to say, Rob, we just have to beat the Rams and we have the season back. That's why we can't panic. That's why it's not so bleak, because we're just a half a step out of first place in the NFC West. And all we have to do is right this ship, make the playoffs, and then go on a run, because this defense is elite enough to win us 1 or 2 games. Strictly the defense. I mean, hell, if they had gotten a turnover at all in that game, we probably win. Had they gotten a pick 6, we would have won hands down. This defense is going to be so special. Even when we see performances like we did on Sunday from the offense, we will win some of those games. BK from the Bay, Rob, I'm just tired how Kyle mishandles his quarterbacks. Let them be quarterbacks and use your running backs. Again, back to needing to absolutely adjust to the play caller that's back there. Speaking of adjusting, I'm getting into another previously submitted question. Big Dig says, I'd like to see some readjusted prediction. Goes on to say, like 13 wins is off the table. So do you even have a winning season now? Also, what are the player predictions? Do any receivers break 1,000 yards? All right, so it's very fair to want to readjust expectations. But I will say, we're not even a quarter of the way through the season. We won't even be a quarter of the way through the season after next week when we play the Rams. My prediction for the 49ers in their win-loss record was 11-6. That's what I made in my way too early prediction, And I stuck with that one coming in because of what I saw early on in preseason. I actually had them going 2-2 to start the year and 4-4 at the bye week. Those still feel very doable at this point. So if those are still doable, an 11-win season and a berth in the playoffs is doable as well. We beat LA. We'll be tied for first in the division, sitting at 2-2, just as I had predicted. It is not time to panic yet. This defense going to keep us in every single game this year. It's just a question if the offense is going to actively lose those games for us. In looking at the 1,000-yard receiving seasons that I predicted, redoing those seems very fair. I had Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo all cresting the 1,000-yard mark. I still think that Ayuk and Debo are headed for 1,000-yard seasons. They're both slightly behind pace right now, more than slightly behind pace, 20 and 25% behind pace. Ayuk is on pace for roughly 800 yards, but again, the game in Chicago, a tough defensive matchup this week. I think those are outlier games. Debo is on pace for roughly 750. Kittle is the brutal one. Only 28 receiving yards after missing the first two and having a lackluster performance in week 3. He's going to have to stay in the block even more with Trent Williams out. So I got to redo that one. I'm not completely bailing on any of my predictions. I'm staying at 11 wins and a playoff berth. I'm sticking with Brandon Ayuk and Debo, both cresting 1,000 yards. And I still actually think Kittle's stats are going to impress considering the start to the season. I'm going to say he hits 850 yards on the year. All right, next one comes in from Johnny E. You know Ellis 10. What's up, Rob? How long will Trent Williams be out for? What a devastating blow to our offense. I'm going to hit this one quickly. Depending on on the severity of it, typically a high ankle sprain is in the 4 to 6 week range. Obviously, last year in the playoffs, Trent had a high ankle sprain against the Packers, played against the Rams a week later, but he did later admit this season that was a mistake. My guess is he misses 3 games. The Rams and then the 2-game East Coast trip against the Panthers and the Falcons. Probably comes back against the Chiefs in week 7. But if not, then you've got the Rams in week 8. Then you got to debate, do you bring him back week 8, which would be, right there missing 4 games, bringing him back for the 5th, or do you give him a full 6 weeks by letting him rest against the Rams and going through the bye and coming back the week after that? Probably will have a lot to do with how Colton McKivitz is holding it down and the record the 49ers have at that point in time. All right, definitely want to get back into your questions in the chat. Just want to make sure I get back to the correct spot so I don't miss anybody's super chats. That is very important. All right, Megan Shure. Okay, we got to CT Law's super chat about going rogue. All right, here we go. Beast Mode Gaming says, Rob, what do you think the play calls will be since Trent Williams is gone? I still believe that you're going to see a pretty healthy leaning on the run game, probably even more so without Trent Williams there to block on the left side. You don't want to have Jimmy dropping back a whole lot against the Rams. However, the Rams' run defense is a little stouter than their pass defense to this point in this season, although that's a small sample size. Bullpup 33 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, we know Jimmy. He needs good O-line play. The O-line did not have a good game. Remember, they are young, though. Let's not forget that Denver's defense is stout. Stout. Martin coming in. Clearly, Rob is not old enough to remember the Montana versus Young drama. Oh, I most definitely am, Martin. I was there for it. I was there at Candlestick Park. I was there when there was the drama between Steve Young and Steve Bono. I definitely do remember that. Great one. 765 says, Rob Schuh, let's turn it on over to Tyrod Taylor and win it all. Make that trade. This is the ration that we have got, the rationale we've gotten to. Troy coming in. Troy Knoll 49 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, man, I was at the Denver tailgate. Wish I could have seen you. We should have gotten Denver. I'm going to the Monday night game. You're going to the one against the Rams. Man, I'm jealous because we should have beaten Denver. And yes, we should beat LA. Things will feel a hell of a lot more right-sized if we beat LA. Starco Fan 212, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob Schuh, what do you think of OBJ's criticisms on MetLife Stadium turf field, considering the injuries that have happened there? That turf field is trash, and they need to get rid of turf. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous to me. Regular grass everywhere. Michael Gallego coming in. Rob Schuh, prior to the game, there was a report that DJ Jones and K'Wan Williams told Denver's defensive coordinator how to stop the 49ers running game. I don't doubt it because it looked like they had our number. Couple of super chats. Chris Royal coming in. Who calls a 5-step drop in the end zone? Seriously. Who, with a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, it's not like if you got Peyton Manning and you call a 5-step drop. Cool. I trust Peyton. You got Tom Brady. Cool. You got Jimmy Garoppolo. That should have been 3 handoffs and a punt if need be. Mitch was crushing it. Defense was crushing it. Jimmy, not so much. Jaguayo 56, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, we need to run 30 plus times. Hope good Jimmy G versus the Rams. Hey, if there's something that we hang our hat on, it is that Jimmy versus the Rams has worked out historically speaking. I'm not guaranteeing anything. If we see the same Jimmy that we saw on Sunday night, we are in for some pain, let me tell you. But it's reasonable to think that we can put the stuff back in the horse against LA. Pern comes in. Rob, we have to play angry. Our defense is better than the 85 Bears. I vote D'Amico as head coach next year. Otherwise, this legendary defense we have now is wasted. I will say this. I'm not on board with the fire Kyle train. I will say, if that did happen, D'Amico would be top of my list. Beast Mode Gaming. Rob, win or lose, I'm still faithful. But can we trade Kyle? Just kidding. LOL. I'll tell you what, if we get enough draft picks, you could sway me eventually. I like this. Randall Riley says, Rob, we will be 1 if we beat the Lambs. I'm telling you, we don't need to give up hope. That's where we don't need to be. We still have a very clear shot at the season. One bad Niner. Rob Schuh, who's this year's Matthew Stafford that we need to go get? It's obvious. Jimmy just doesn't got it. It was supposed to be Jimmy was that guy available for teams that needed help at the quarterback position. I don't know. There is another guy out there. Oakdale Bubba Niner Show. Rob, the 49ers record will be 15-2, clinch the number 1 seed. I like your optimism. I cannot agree at this point. I can't. Looking for the @Rob comments coming in. One bad Niner coming back in, says Rob Schuh, who's this year's? Oh, we got to that one. Are we talking about? Gotcha says, is that updated injury status talking about Trent Williams? No, we're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. Just gave my guess on when he might come back based on the fact that he was able to play the next week when it was the playoffs. All right, we will get to some of the previously submitted questions, and we will be back in the chat. Again, for those of you that are watching live, do me that favor. Hit that like button if you enjoy the content, if you want to help me push this signal out to more and more 49er faithful. And if you're asking a question or have a comment you'd like me to read aloud on the air, put in @Rob prior to your question or your comment. Let me get into one of these previously submitted questions. This one comes in from Swan Song. All right. Swan had 2. So there's the main one you see and a follow-up that I'll let you know. It says, will Kyle and Spicy Jimmy be on the same page this season? Does it matter? He follows up to say, were they ever on the same page? In answer to that second question of were they ever on the same page? No, Kyle and Jimmy have never completely been on the same page. That's why they keep trying to replace the man, is because Kyle can't seem to get on the same page as Jimmy. But I'm not faulting Jimmy entirely. I think that some of that stubborn nature is with Kyle. The question is, do they have to be completely on the same page for this team to catch fire and win it all? I say no, a resounding no. It just has to be functional. It was not functional Sunday night. Jimmy just has to execute the offense at a higher level. You simply cannot miss the number of open looks that he did against Denver in a game that close. Kyle also needs to make some damn adjustments. How about we accept Jimmy's flaws and build around them at this point? He's all we've got right now. I'm not turning to Mr. Irrelevant until we're mathematically out of the playoffs. Next one comes in from the Gold Rush podcast. After Jimmy's performance Sunday night, Do you still think he can be trusted? Also, what's your opinion on the double standard the national media has on Jimmy versus Trey, Rook versus Vet? So yes, unfortunately, nothing we saw Sunday night should have surprised us. Nothing should have surprised us. We've all seen Jimmy have a game like that one before. We all know he can play better, but we also know another game like the one we just saw is on the horizon at some point. I'm not sure that double standard is necessarily the phrase that I would use for Trey versus Jimmy, but it's definitely different. 100% different. The fact that Jimmy's been part of a winning team, part of winning seasons, it's used as evidence that he can win. That's typically a narrative for the national media. Trey doesn't have any of those winning seasons in the NFL to this point, and so you can't direct people's attentions towards that. But it doesn't then explain the negative assumptions about his ability to succeed. The circumstances that Trey was thrust into with this talented roster of the 49ers was both a gift and a curse. It was the best possible chance to succeed, but with that came ridiculous pressure to win and scrutiny because the last guy is literally still on the roster. All right, next one before I get back into the comments to your questions coming in live in the chat says, Raphael A says, will the Niners be a run-heavy offense now? I'm going to say that the percentage of run plays will probably go down without Trey out there. To this point, this year, it's 81 passes to 101 rushes. But defenses are going to be able to stack the box more as they have historically done against Jimmy Garoppolo, and that makes running significantly more challenging. There was a reason we would run more, even when it wasn't Trey running, when Trey was out there, and that we had a higher per clip average. I'd expect similar run-pass play breakdowns to 2019 and 2021, where Jimmy started most of the games. It's pretty close to 50-50. 2019, it was 478 pass to 498 rush, basically 50-50. 2021, it spun the other way just slightly, but still close to 50-50. 514 passes, 499 rushes. Again, right now, we're leaning towards rush heavy, 80 to 100. But I believe with Jimmy out there, we'll see that creep towards a 50-50 split. With Trent Williams out initially, we may lean heavier on the run in these next few games. All right, going to get back into your comments live in the chat. Still have a few previously submitted questions to go back to, but want to make sure that we are staying up to date here in the chat as well. All right, Moses comes in. Rob Schuh, on the positive side, gotta love the positivity. I was so proud of Diamador Lenore and how he's been playing. You know I've been hard on him. I felt like a proud papa. The defense was full of things to be thrilled about. Starco fan 212, Rob Schuh, Sir Mix-a-Lot's baby got back would go great along Trent Sherfield's butt punt on Sunday. I haven't seen the clip of that. Quite honestly, I've been staying away from television reviews of football for good reason. Very good reason. Ekem, Rob, why does Kyle not get criticism for having his teams now and still having a losing record as a coach? I think he does get criticism for that. I think that's one of the louder criticisms when people say to fire Kyle. And it is one of the criticisms that has some validity. Now, some of that comes from being a part of a team that was trash when he arrived, right? 2017, it was tough to imagine any coach coming in and having a winning record. When you lose your quarterback for the entirety of a season and most of another season, again, you can look at those as reasons why you might expect someone to not win as many games. But it is a fair criticism of Kyle Shanahan. I think he has a very complex offensive system. And when it's running well, it's great. When it's not firing on all cylinders, it can be ugly. And games can get out of hand. And it can appear, if you don't have the right person operating the system, it can appear completely disjointed. And to this point, Kyle has not consistently had the right person operating his offensive system. Gotcha. Coming in, Rob. Is Jimmy rusty, or has he regressed? I'm really worried. Too small of a sample size to definitively say. It's fair to assume he would have some rust. Let's just see if it gets better. We don't have any other option. John B., sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, how much of a spark will Marlon Mack bring to the running back room? He did not provide much on Sunday. Didn't give him a carry. He had 7 yards to Jordan Mason on his one carry. Why not get the man another carry? Why not keep Jeff Wilson Jr. a little fresher? It's a frustrating one. Great one, 765. Rob Schuh, Jimmy just has to play average. The defense is best in the league. Just don't play like he did last week. But can Jimmy be average? I think he can. We've all seen average Jimmy. Ryan Anthony, Rob, we can't win them all. Have to look to next week and the Rams. Absolutely. And have to look at the fact we will be in first place if we win there. Ellis 10, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob Schuh, I'm not giving up on Jimmy G. He will bounce back this week. Go Niners. I sure hope so. We need a bounce back game, and we need it badly. Marlon coming in with the super chat says, not sure why Jordan Mason wasn't utilized more in the last game, but he needs to be going forward. Seems like Kyle Shanahan relies too heavily on his veteran backs. In other news, defense still remains legit. The defense is not just legit, but like tops in the league. This is the type of defense you cannot waste this season, Kyle. You've got to get on the same page with Jimmy Garoppolo. Swallow your pride. I don't care what you need to do. Just make sure that you can allow Jimmy to be average. The dude is capable of being average. Put him in the right positions to be successful. Oh, man, somebody just earned themselves a timeout. It was a comment from a little while ago, so they're probably rolled on with that type of nonsense coming in. James Schaefer, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob, this O-line is scary. No Trent, and Jake Brendel is terrible. I'm pissed they did not address the center position. They were so stubborn on this. That is the position where if it falters throughout the year, the Niners will have to share some blame, whether it's Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, whomever that allowed them to go through the offseason saying, nope, we're good. Jake Brendel, competition between Daniel Brunskill and Jake Brendel, we're good. To this point, I don't know that I've seen enough to definitively say that Jake Brendel is the weak link. The offensive line did struggle. I'm not prepared to lay it on the head of one individual. Jalen Moore looked pretty atrocious coming in to fill in initially for Trent Williams, and McKivitz was a little bit slow to get his feet underneath him as well, fighting back an injury. CJ Gray, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob, we need to run the damn ball and block properly for it. If we can do that, we've got a chance of winning. Let's see if we can start that up against the Rams. Sneaker Season 415 says, Rob, do you think Kyle is losing the locker room players' trust? Not yet, but with this talented of a roster, if things go badly long enough, he will. I really do think that. Kevin, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, if we lose to the Rams, then we'll need to win 70% of the last games to reach the playoffs. And even at that, it depends on the other divisional games. So keep everything crossed. It's a W. This is a very important game. Very important. I will not be ready to write off the season if they lose, but it sets us back considerably. 2-2 going in. That's what I predicted the Niners would be at. 2-2 after 4 games. I would be okay with that. They lose it. Twisted Clown says, Rob, why did Kyle not accept a penalty early on and give Denver 3 points? Did he not trust his D or bad coaching per usual? I can't speak to the specifics of that one play because I don't have it in my mind what the options were. I know what sequence you're talking about there, but I don't want to misspeak. What I will say, Twisted Clown, is that I'm not willing to go to, is it bad coaching per usual? Because I don't think that Kyle Shanahan is a bad coach. I understand many people do, especially after a game as frustrating as this one. I'm not going to try and defend him. I will just say I feel differently. Drippy Dad coming in. Rob, do you think Kyle will benefit from hiring some help, an assistant head coach or someone to assist with team functions? I do think he needs an offensive coordinator. I think he's got to take something off his own plate. It's just unacceptable to see what happened Sunday night and believe that you have a coach as intelligent as Kyle is. James Schaefer, Rob, the problem with Jimmy is ball out in 2.5 seconds. No time for routes to be run. Hence Debo standing in the end zone without the ball. There were some, though, that he should have seen. They were open from the get. NYCE 1030, Rob Schuh, I think some fans are panicking too quick. Jimmy with no preseason or throwing to anyone, what could you expect? Plenty of games left, but O-line needs attention. I'm going to stay faithful. I agree. Stay faithful. Don't panic yet. And That was a bad game by Jimmy. No preseason. That was rough. That was real rough. Darren Worthington says, Rob, what year GTO and where did you put the 12s in the trunk? It was a 1969 GTO, and I stuffed the 12s up against you could fit like 12 bodies in the trunk of a GTO. I would stuff that box with the 12s in it right up against the back seat, and I had it strapped in. I had some 6x9s underneath that little bit coming out of the garage, coming out of the trunk as well. I got a picture. Someday I will have to show you that. It's one of those pictures that belongs in that TikTok trend of I'm just a teenage dirtbag, baby. You will get a kick out of that one. Lee Ving, Rob Schuh, stack boxes and dare Jimmy to beat you is going to be the game plan for the rest of the season. Oh, heaven help us. Heaven help us. Oakdale Bubba Niners show, Rob, Tevin Coleman is that Kyle Shanahan needs to start Tevin Coleman this Monday against the Rams. Do I agree with you? No, I don't think Tevin Coleman is the answer. Jordan Mason deserves more run time. Randall Riley, man, I'm keeping Mason on my fantasy team in the hopes that Kyle comes to his senses and plays both Wilson and Mason for a 1-2 punch. I'm with you on that. Get Jordan Mason more carries. I'm on that. Marlon, we're putting that one back up because it was all about Mason. And I'm about it. All right. Yes, sir, says Rob. We can't lose back-to-back primetime games like this. Let's get this. Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan together have not lost back-to-back games. So there is a little bit to hang your hat on. Although if Jimmy plays like he did and Kyle calls the game like he did, they will lose their first back-to-back. Bullpup 33. Rob, if the season goes sideways, who goes first? Kyle or John? I have to think John. Although if the season continues to go sideways as it did on Sunday night, that question becomes more interesting. But again, I would think that of the two, Kyle's more popular, a little harder to replace, thought more of in league circles as far as being a genius, would get swooped up in a heartbeat. So my guess would be John Lynch would be first to go. Randall Riley, I don't think either is happening. Niners turn this season around. Stick with me on that one. Niners are still going to the playoffs this season. Come back and listen to me saying that when you hear everybody else panicking and jumping ship. It's not happening. Randall Riley, Rob, just like last season, seems it takes a month or so for this team to get into an offensive groove. Let's hope. Fingers frickin' crossed on that one. All right, John B., sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob, in Brendel's defense, he only had a week of time with Jimmy G. May not be used to his cadence yet. Brendel isn't a world beater, but he's shown to be serviceable for the most part. I'm not ready to crucify Jake Brendel just yet. The offensive line gave up some pressures. When you lose Trent Williams, that's a big factor. It is a big shift going back from Trey to Jimmy. I'm not excusing anyone, but I'm not willing to crucify anybody along the offensive line yet either. One Bad Niner says, Rob Schuh, forget football. It's going to be an EKG chart all year. Thoughts on 89 5.0 Mustang with a 5-speed, 373 gears in the rear, and an Alpine system, 1,000-watt amp, 12-inch Vegas. I'm thinking that's Serwin Vegas, not Vegas, to blow out my eardrums. One Bad Niner. Hey, that's a badass ride that you're describing right there. I get down with, I don't care if it's, one particular brand. If it's a badass machine, I'm here for it. I am a car guy through and through. Bencham says, Rob, do you feel Shanahan has too many responsibilities? Maybe he could hire a play caller. I think there's something to this. Something has to change. That's what I will say. When you keep getting the same results and you have a coach who very clearly is intelligent, very clearly can design offenses that other teams, other coaches want to emulate in this league, something's not right. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. And I do think taking responsibilities off of Kyle's plate, allowing him to still be the play designer. But let's be honest, when sequencing plays, is Kyle the greatest at that? I think he's good sometimes, but he misses others. So if he's still designing the plays, but he allows someone else to sequence them, such as an offensive coordinator that would collaborate with him, could be a good thing. Could be a good thing. Jaguayo 56, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob, gotta go. Hoping you and the family stay blessed. Stay blessed. I hope that you and your family stay blessed as well. Jaguayo, thank you so much for all of your active participation in the live streams, for your calling in. Always appreciate your calm demeanor and the dialogue that we have. Jan coming in. Rob, last week, Jimmy said it was like riding a bike. I guess he forgot how to ride a bike. He forgot. Oh, DJ Molly, 1972 Gran Torino, my first love. Gotta respect it. Gotta respect. Right now, I've got a 1967 Camaro RSSS, currently in a rebuild process. Got the exterior done. Motors pretty much complete. Interior is a work in process. Gold-blooded, I'm a Mopar guy, but love the old Chevys, Camaro, Chevelle, Malibus. That new Chevelle is legit. Might have to snatch one up to match the red eye. I got myself a modern-day Mopar as well, gold-blooded. I got a little bit of horsepower underneath the hood of my bad boy. JMac49 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, it seemed to me that we were having success running the ball earlier on. Why do you think they started relying on Jimmy to throw so much? Why not go with running back by committee? It felt as if the Broncos got all over the runs to Debo, and we found ourselves in a lot of positions where we had to throw the ball. If we had stuck with the run, had we pivoted a little bit, it did feel as if we could have kept the chains moving, sticking with the run. And then the game plan seemed to shift, and that was a mistake. Gizmo Maltese. Feel like we lost the Super Bowl because O-line couldn't block, and that's been our problem since. Can't throw deep, have to keep Kittle in, hope for an O-line. I'm not ready to give up on this O-line just yet. It's going to be rough, with the loss of Trent Williams. Going up against the Rams next, they certainly could get back on track. So far, they're having a better time against the run than they are against the pass. But a lot of that, I think, has to do with the way in which the games have played out for the Rams and some of the turnovers that have been committed. That's tough. It is tough. I still have faith in this offensive line. Jake Brendel is my most worrisome position because I now have additional faith in Aaron Banks and in Spencer Burford, although Burford had himself a rough game with a couple of penalties in this one. Gizmo Maltese at Rob. What car are you rolling in now? The daily driver at this point is a Ford Raptor at the moment. Yes, indeed. 2019 Ford Raptor for the daily. James Schaefer, Rob, thank you as always for your show and being you. Thank you to all of you that are here being reasonable in the comments. I really thought that this was going to be a negative show. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm frustrated. I'm critical of what I saw. And I can't deal with like these dark holes that people go into and the dispersion that they cast upon the entire franchise and upon the fan base and the hyperbole they use to talk about the coach and the quarterback. Criticism's one thing, but to pile on incessantly, I just can't go there. So I was pleased that people are being reasonable. They're being critical, as they should be, and still realizing, hey, we're 3 games in. There's still time. Sky Lara, Sky Full of Stars, says Rob, I love Jimmy, but the moment he went too far back in the end zone, he knows better. The very first drive was amazing. Jimmy just needs to learn, or just knowing where everyone is, being mindful. It does seem like he loses track of where players are on the field, both defenders and his own. JMac49 just coming in to drop the kindness. I appreciate it. E. Kim says, Rob, my first car was an 89 Cadillac Fleetwood. I did at one point have an 86 Cadillac DeVille later in life. I've had a bunch of random cars throughout. 49ers, Rob, we should have beat the Broncos, but Russ did Russ things in the fourth quarter. So is he still our daddy? You got to give it to the dude. I hate to say it. I'm not going to say those words out loud in sequence. And I am going to admit that, yes, he does have some ownership there. Terror Dome says 91 Acura Legend. I'm telling you. Abraham Muniz says, Rob, Mopar all day. What you got? Little demon. Darren says, Rob, you have a 67 Rally Sport Super Sport? You little devil. Indeed. JMac49 Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, way to stay positive about still making the playoffs. What are the keys to beat the Rams? Run the damn ball, please. 5 words. Run the damn ball, please. That's it. Kevin Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, you'd think that Jed and the Jam would step in and say, whoa, guys, something's not working. It's fine to spend cash willy-nilly. Great phrase, in my opinion. But when you're the payer, it goes fast. Jed allowed a lot of freedom here, and now he's got to stick with it, right? He said, hey, you want to keep Jimmy around? You keep Jimmy around. You want to pay Jimmy $25 million to be a backup? You pay Jimmy $25 million to be a backup. He gave both Lynch and Shanahan enough rope to hang themselves. It's just a question of whether they end up doing just that this season. Bullpup 33, Rob, how about a Smokey and the Bandit 79 Trans Am? Thank you very much. I'm a Pontiac guy. Absolutely a Pontiac guy. Yes, indeed. All right, let's see here. This is fair. Ekim, Rob, I'm not a negative person, just not optimistic with Jimmy as starting quarterback. Ekim, I might have to beg to differ ever so slightly on the first part of the statement there. I'm not saying you're a negative person, by no means. I'm saying a lot of the comments have like a negative spin to them, so it might be slightly negative skewed, but I can honestly see the second part of that, of why you're not optimistic with Jimmy as starting quarterback, in particular after that last game. Chris, Chili Odell comes in. Rob Schuh, Sunday night was tough, but we got to stay faithful, run the ball, and let that defense dominate. This defense could show us, it could take us to the promised land. This defense alone could take us to the promised land. CJ Gray, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, we only had 3 good runs. Most of the runs was getting stuffed. Yeah, Jordan Mason's was good. 7 yards, 1 carry. I'm telling you. Archon Jedi, I appreciate this car talk. 87 Nissan Sentra had 324,000 miles on it when I got it. Kudos to that. Kudos to that. Rob Schuh, it's frustration more than negativity. Wasted defensive effort like that, and Jimmy just looked flat out bad. I am with you on the frustration. I'm feeling it myself. Absolutely frustrated by that performance, and agree that the true shame of it is to waste such a spectacular defensive performance. Pernamore, says Rob. Russ did do Russ things. Jimmy did Jimmy things too. Well said. That's sad, but very, very true. Treasure Kisses, says Rob, can we pick up Lamar Jackson, please? I will call Baltimore and see if he is available. That would be a spectacular move. I don't think he is available. Randall Riley, Sneakerhead, says, Rob, we lost in a monsoon and by 1 point for our 2 losses. It's going to be okay. I love that optimism. And that is a great point. They are still both losses. Absolutely both losses. And it does require context. Dr. Jaspreet, Rob, over the last few weeks, I can see you really don't want to hear much about Kyle Shanahan, so I'll try not to mention Kyle Shanahan-related topics, LOL. I don't mind criticism of Kyle Shanahan after this latest performance. I think it is warranted, and I'm not going to defend him this week. I don't like being put in a position to defend people, because usually I'm not actually trying to defend them. I think people deserve criticism. I'm usually in that nuance place where it's like, hey, one reasonable stance is here. Most people are way over here. Let's just try to move the conversation closer to reasonable. Criticism is still fine. All right. So, but we'll go on to what you said. Anyways, thought we should have looked into signing Jason Peters. Could have been a good addition. But again, don't mind the criticisms of Kyle, especially after this week. Darren Worthington, back to the car talk, says, Rob, my first car was a 65 Chevelle SS 327. Beautiful car. Beautiful car. Joey Mellon, Sneakerhead, says, Rob, I'm broke and can't give you the tip you deserve. You just did with that verbal tip. I will take it. Absolutely love positive comments. Just as good as money. Abraham says, Rob, all props to you, sir. Those little demons are bad. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Darren says, Rob, we could do a car show on YouTube. Gotcha says, easy on the car talk, bro. This is a 49ers frickin' station. Yeah, we're getting back to the 49ers. We do love cars here, though. I'm a car guy. We're going to bring in a little bit of it. Gotcha. I hope you can be okay with a little car stuff. But we're back on the Niners. We got a couple more previously submitted questions that I'm going to go through here right now. So you know these are going to be Niner related. This one comes in from Johnny E. Says, Rob, the 49ers offense went 1 for 10 on third down versus the Broncos. What do you think is the leading cause for this low conversion rate? The offense was disjointed, Johnny. Clearly, Jimmy struggled mightily. Kyle wasn't at his best, although there were definitely plays left on the field that were called correctly. So I think if you're attributing blame on this one, you got to lean a little heavier on Jimmy when you see some of those players running open. Let's also not forget about the loss of Trent Williams. No excuse, but that's the best left tackle in football. And both Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz struggled in replacing him. So let's not forget that we lost Trent Williams before the half. And Denver's defense is good. They're third in total yards allowed, and they're second in points allowed. So while their offense struggled as well, this was a clash of two Titan-like defenses. That is the bottom line for me. And we lost by 1 point. Could have gone either way. Cash Flow Chris comes in, says, how will their beat up O-line fare against the Rams D-line? So talking about the Niners offensive line being banged up, bruised, beaten, coming up against the Rams ferocious D-line. Again, I'll go back to this, that to this point, the Rams have been middle of the pack on defense. They're a better run defense than a pass defense, so perhaps that's troubling for the Niners, who seem to need to get that run game going and have struggled to do so to this point. But Colton McKivitz, who I anticipate will get the start at left tackle, has held his own against LA, most notably in Week 17 last year in that must-win game. So this offensive line has a chance to get things going, and I'd say that the Niners get up for this one and have success running the ball. You don't see the Niners losing back-to-back. Again, Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo haven't done it together since that pairing has been a unit. I don't think they allow it to happen right now. We got two more previously submitted questions to close out on, but definitely want to get back into the chat for those of you that are asking questions live. Randall Riley says, give Rob some cheddar by smashing that like button, fam. I appreciate you doing the good deed, asking folks to hit the like button and send that signal through the roof. Well, making sure not to dip too hard into the car category because, some people want to hear Niners. Walker coming in, Rob. Jimmy honestly isn't being trusted, and he's getting angry. You can see him yelling when heading off the field. This will get better over time, but we need to pull it together now, especially versus the Rams. This is a good point, and this goes back to the fact that I see Kyle Shanahan as being very stubborn, that he and Jimmy need to get on the same page. And I don't care who sets aside their ego first, but one of them or both of them need to do it, because if those two are not on the same page, that's where I do start to lose hope. I believe they will get it right, but it's going to require some fixing, active fixing. Marlon comes in with the super chat. Got to get to that right away. And you know this. Rob, what's been your favorite away stadium you've watched a Niners game at? This is tough. Someone asked me this. I was having lunch with a couple 49ers fans before going out to Denver. Beautiful stadium there in Denver. I will give you my top 5, and these are in no order. I would need to give more time and consideration to this if I were attempting to do a top 1. Candlestick Park is always going to be in my top 5. I understand that it's not from a true stadium perspective, but the memories that are attached to that building, the number of times I spent the afternoon there with my brother, my father, that's going to be a special one for me. I really was impressed by Minnesota's new stadium there. That big glass wall, it may not be great for birds, but it is beautiful. The interior of the stadium, very impressive as well. Jerry Jones World, you walk through those front doors and it's pretty staggering. That screen, I found it to be more impressive than the one at SoFi, even though technologically speaking, the one at SoFi is more impressive. I have to put Lambeau Field in my top 5. You walk in there and you feel the historical significance, and they have upgraded the stadium as well. So there's a whole indoor portion that was added to it. And then lastly, SoFi. These new ones are all pretty much great. Notice, though, that Levi's isn't in there. Levi's is, in my humble opinion, the worst of the new stadiums, and not by a wide margin. It's just because it's bland. It's because it doesn't have quite the flavor some of these newer ones do, or the advantages some of these other stadiums do as well. But that would be my top 5 stadiums. And I feel pretty confident about that. NYCE 1030 says, Rob Schuh, thanks for the great content. It's great to hear real content and not big media just trashing the team and players. Thank you, Rob, for being fair and keeping it real. Thank you for saying that. That is my attempt, is to keep it real, to keep my observations genuine, and to admit that I am a full-fledged 49er faithful, and that does color my glasses, right? I do have rose-colored glasses. They're red. They're red and gold. That's the way I see things, but I also try to be realistic. I'm not attempting to blow smoke. This is really the way I feel. Swan Song says, Rob Schuh flew up to Pleasanton in 2001 to pick up my 02 E46 M3. That's a good M3. At the time, the car was marked up $10K over MSRP. Dealership in Pleasanton have a buyer back out and sold it at sticker same day. I don't pay those dealer markups. ADMs, no, don't pay them, especially if you live in the Bay Area and you got lots of money. I'm with Swan Song on this one. Get the deal. Make sure that you do. All right, sorry, we got back into cars. I know people want to hear Niners. We got 2 more questions to close out on. By the way, Dirk Pippen coming in, talking about cars. This man had a 69 Camaro back in the day, SS 396. Was it, Dirk, or was it a 454? I want to say it was a 396. Beautiful blue, black racing stripes. Beautiful 69 Camaro. Oh, my goodness. Dirk Pippen was rolling back in the day. JMac49 Sneakerhead here on the channel says, Rob, if the Niners continue to lose road games, will you refrain from making the road trips? I will not. I am in. I am superstitious. I do not believe I am any type of a curse. I was there at the Packers game. That was a beautiful win. I've been at a lot of big wins in my day, but going to a lot of games, going to 100, 150 NFL games means I've been at some of the most elite ones, and I've been at some real painful losses as well. It is my humble opinion that the more losses you sweat through, the more that you truly soak in and absorb, the sweeter those wins will be. I guarantee you that after having been at 2 Super Bowl losses in person, and I do say when, I am there in attendance at the Niners' next Super Bowl win, it is going to be that much more meaningful to me as a person because I will have attached those other memories to that. To me, it's all about the delta between your lowest low and your highest high. And with the Niners, we've felt some real lows. Steve-O Supremo, Rob, why aren't you the right shoe? This is a play on words. Nothing to do with politics. Let me put that right out there. People think left shoe. It's for politics. Admittedly, I am more liberal than I am conservative, but it has nothing to do with politics. It was a play on words because growing up, I always viewed in my family that I was a bit of the outcast. My brother was older than I am, 4.0 student, was a star goalie, water polo, just did the I'm good at things route. And I was like, I can go the other direction. I can be a very unsuccessful delinquent. And for my teenage years, I strived for that goal. So the left shoe means not the correct shoe. Oakdale Bubba Niners show. Rob, love the show. Love Levi's Stadium. And guess what? Let's go Niners. Let's get the W next Monday. I want Rob Schuh to go to Levi's Stadium next Monday to do it for me. I wish I were going to that one. I really wish that I was. Dr. Jaspreet, Rob, this week is going to be about how we can supplement pass protection. Pretty much someone needs to stay in the backfield and always block. If running back is leaking out, fullback, tight end needs to stay in the backfield. This is going to be a tough one for George Kittle. It's rough. Dirk Pippen says, yes, 396 SS. Love you too, my friend. Good to see you here. Treasure Kisses says, Rob, would you go to a home game between SF versus the Bucks if it was paid for? I mean, I probably would, but I would feel bad accepting that. And so I would ask that people on the channel not do that. If in fact I can make it to that game, I will. CJ Gray, Rob, run Debo, run Brandon Ayuk, run Danny Gray, run Kittle, run everyone to get to the 35 runs. I love it. I love it. Dr. Jaspreet, Rob, favorite current shoe you own? My babies are Air Jordan 1 Retro High OG patent bred red black. I would say that my current favorite pair, sadly, are a nice pair of leather dress shoes that I have. That's sad. That's sad. CJ Gray says there's the least amount of arguing in Rob chats. That's a good thing, right, CJ? I feel like that's a good thing because we're being decent to one another. Jan says, Rob, you missed my Mexico comment. I feel bad about that. Will you copy and paste it and put it back in? Dirk Pippen, hey crew, did Rob say how good that ribeye was? I did not, but it was phenomenal. The ribeye was phenomenal. Was outside looking at Russell Wilson's freaking Rolls Royce. Very jealous of that. Saw Russell and Sierra in the other room celebrating with their Bronco teammates after I had crushed my ribeye. The real star of the show was the dessert. I went double dessert. The bartender bought me both desserts, said it was my birthday, gave me this little candle that wasn't a candle at all. It was like a little Roman candlestick, whatever those things are called, that shoots fire out of the end. It was elite. They were singing happy birthday to me. It wasn't my birthday. It was just phenomenal. Free desserts. Can't go wrong with that. All right, we got a couple more previously submitted comments to answer, questions to answer, and then we'll wrap this thing up. John B. coming in. Got to get that on the screen. Man, it's not cooperating. Here we go. Does Kyle need to sit Jimmy down and show him the Denver game tape with all the obvious missed opportunities and tell him that it isn't his plays that suck? It's Jimmy who needs to be better. No, I mean, yes, Jimmy needs to know how badly he played on the throws that he missed. But I think the animosity between coach and player is part of the issue here. Jimmy visibly appears to feel the pressure that Kyle applies. Kyle is admittedly a perfectionist and thinks his offense provides the answer to the test when it comes to defeating a defense. He needs to lighten up with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's clear to me that Jimmy Garoppolo cannot take that level of pressure. Whether you want to criticize Jimmy for that is fine, but the reality is we're stuck with Jimmy at this point. So you need to work with him. You need to get the most out of the dude. I know that runs contrary to what most fans would want. Most fans want Jimmy to stop smiling on the sideline in a game that's slipping away. They want Kyle to yell at Jimmy. They want Kelly. They want Kyle to be consistently in Jimmy's face on the sideline until he gets it right. I just don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's going to help Jimmy Garoppolo get better. Kyle needs to take a play from Jim Harbaugh's playbook and build his signal caller up. I want to see him pounding on Jimmy's freaking chest plate. I want to see him smacking the side of Jimmy's helmet. I want to see him playing him up, getting him fired up. Damn it, Kyle. The other way isn't working. Stop it. Try something new. If you think that your plays are elite and all you need is execution from your quarterback, then build up his damn confidence and get him ready to execute. It doesn't seem that complicated. All right, last one from the previously submitted ones. Obviously a joke. Gary W. with the win says, can Nick Bosa play running back? I say nicely played, Gary, but I want to know, can he play quarterback? I don't think we need him to play running back. I think we need Nick Bosa to step in there and spin that ball. Damn it. This is frustrating. Let me tell you. All right, we are closing this one out here in the chat. If you've got any final comments, go ahead and put them in. E. Kim did say, hey, did I get to Portillo's in Chicago? I didn't. I did have I had one of those sandwiches, but I had it at the game. Didn't make it to Portillo's, but Chicago is on my list. I'll be back. Randall Riley says, we all have opinions and passions and keep it real and clean. Love this chat. And of course, the man, Rob Schuh. Appreciate you, Randall. Jan coming in. Rob, did you check out the best ever food review show, Mexico episode for food research when watching the Niners? No, but I do need to know where to go in Mexico. I got to get my freaking passport freaking renewed. I can't allow that game to get by without going to it. The Oakdale Bubba Niners. Rob, let's go Niners. Let's beat the Los Angeles Rams. And guess what the score will be? 35-10. 49ers win. Offense and defense on the Niners will dominate both sides of the ball. Shut down the MVP on 10. Hey, I hope your prediction is correct. And we do, in fact, stomp the Rams because we'll be able to move past this loss. We will be able to forget about it and get some optimism back. Jan coming in. Debo can be a wide eighth back. Ouch. Raphael 562 Niners. Rob, would be nice to see Debo throw the ball to Danny Gray for a touchdown. Yes, you have to absolutely get after it. You have to get after it. You got to get creative with these play calls. Have to get creative with the play calls. Darren says, Rob, Nick Bosa could play O-line. Unfortunately, he'd be called for holding all the time. All right, that's good. That is good. And yes, sir. Rob, you missed many comments. I did I did. Randall Riley says Rob needs an assistant for all these missed comments. Laughing my ass off. Yes, unfortunately, missed comments galore. That's the way it goes. JMac49, Rob, great show. Thanks for the positive, real content. Are you doing the play breakdown show this week? No, I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I couldn't bring myself to watch this over and over again. Gizmo, I have a sneakerhead call-in show that happens on Thursdays. I will bring back an open mic night where everyone gets to call in. I will try and put that on the calendar for this week. I'm going to be back with Random McMahon tomorrow for Between Two Beards. I appreciate everyone, the super chats, the active participation in the chat, the respectfulness here on the program. I really appreciate all of you being here, being a part of the dialogue. If you're still here, you enjoy the content, please do hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe. Go tell a friend about the channel. Tell a fellow 49er faithful, hey, you can come watch this stream right here because this is where we keep it real, we keep it faithful, and we tell it like it is, but it doesn't mean we need to go down some dark hole, right? We stay positive because we're only 3 games into this one, and the Niners are still making the playoffs. Mark my words. Listen to all those naysayers out there and mark it right now. Rob Schuh didn't fall off. Rob Schuh doesn't believe the hype. Rob Schuh is still believing in the quality of this team. Godzilla, Rob, Jimmy will bounce back and spank the Lambs. I sure hope that Jimmy and Kyle both get back on track and absolutely beat down the Rams. If we do, if we get to 2-2, the hope in the season is back. Again, I'll be here 5 p.m. tomorrow with Random McMahon on Between Two Beards. Until then, cheers, faithful.